scoring teams in the league, and on the flip side, both defenses, not great. We're going to start with you, Greg. Do you think Jayden can keep pace with Lamar?
Absolutely. Look, this young man has shown us that he can be very accurate. He's poised. He can run, extend plays, make off-script things happen. And he's doing it all while being talked about as potential MVP candidate, but kind of not dismissing it, but just wearing it and letting people talk, being compared to the guy that he's going to play, understanding I respect this guy, but I'm going to play the game the way that I play it. He has a feel and a sense about him that, look, man, I'm not rattled by any of this. I got the support of the guys in this locker room. I believe that I am who they wanted me to be, and I can be even better. I just love the way he's playing. And so for me, it's not even about keeping up with Lamar. It's really, can he do enough for them to potentially be in striking distance to win this game? Because this is a real possibility for them to win this game because of how we've seen the Ravens defense play. I don't doubt at all that he's going to be able to keep up with Lamar.
Here's what I know. I know that Washington hopes this is the narrative of the game. A Jayden and Lamar duel. Because when the Ravens get in these duels, it's not that Lamar doesn't play well. He's actually, aside from the Kansas City game, he's played well. You know what I mean? He's played well throughout the year. But when they get in the duels, they struggle or the other team steals it from them. Twice this year, Lamar's had less than 185 yards passing. They are the two best games the Ravens have played this year. Dallas and Buffalo. Dallas, they controlled for 3 quarters. Buffalo, they controlled for 4 quarters. The other 3 games, Lamar's had greater than 245 yards passing, between 300 to 400 total yards. Kansas City, they lost. Las Vegas, they lost. Cincinnati came as close as you could to a loss. The other team kicking a field goal beat you in overtime. I think you go into a game against Baltimore hoping they're trying to have a shootout and this is
that would be the dumbest thing.
But it's so for us it wasn't an hour ago we talked about it. I wasn't trying to dismiss your opinion, but it just I think you're looking at it I think less with no ego involved, and I think it's pro sports. There's a lot of ego, and I think Todd Monken was hired to fix the passing game. And Lamar Jackson is going to be the greatest quarterback of all time, was the narrative going into the year. And again, I am not knocking Lamar here. He was brilliant against Cincinnati. But I do think if in that game they had just been it's a Derrick Henry game, they would have scored way fewer points and they would have had more control over it because Cincinnati wouldn't have been able to get rolling the way they did offensively. And I think Washington, that's what they want. They want a pass type of game, Brew, because I do think Jayden and that pass offense can hang with Baltimore and their pass offense in this game.
Well, I'm gonna let this clip play, but I just want to highlight that I already know that a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans are going to be very angry at that because what they're saying, what Nick is saying is turn Lamar Jackson into a thrower, and they're not as good, and that's not what makes Lamar Jackson special. And I know a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans that's just going to anger them tremendously. But it's interesting to hear Greg say that Jayden can absolutely, and he can, and to a large degree, he expects it to keep pace with Lamar, which I'm going to unpack more deeply after Brew goes, because I've already talked about this game at length from all different angles, from, who should be favored versus who's not, what does a win mean versus a loss, all of those types of things. This game is actually really fascinating to me for many different reasons, from both the Commanders' perspective and the Ravens' perspective, from a Lamar perspective and a Jayden Daniels perspective. So,
and I think, and we saw this some with Cincinnati too, they're going to stack the box. And that's what teams do. That's what you should do against Baltimore, because as good of a passer, and Lamar has been incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
He's thrown the ball. Jayden, right now, he throws a better deep ball than not just Lamar, but a lot of people in the league. His deep ball, we knew coming in, that was one of the selling points on him, but he has thrown it well. So I do think that he will have more passing yards than Lamar. All right, but I think Lamar will play an overall better game. But because the Ravens give up a ton of yards passing. They don't give us, like Washington's giving up more passing touchdowns. Washington's opponents have a better passing rate against them than Baltimore, but Baltimore gives up a ton of yards. So Jayden is going to throw for a lot of yards, and they don't have the run game. Lamar, I mean, yeah, run Derrick Henry and run Lamar. So I think Lamar will do damage with his legs. I think Derrick Henry will do damage. The only problem I could see for Baltimore is if they get behind. If they get behind, one, they're going to feel like, okay, we got to pass to get back in this thing. And two, the opponent, because of the way they're playing it, giving up the pass to stop the run, that also is going to play into less, throw the football. And so, look, I think it'll be a good game. If Baltimore loses, that will still not change my pick of they're going to win the Super Bowl. I still think they can, but it would not shock me. Washington is good,
no.
And you lose games in the NFL.
They can't lose.
They can't lose this game.
You can't continually lose games and let the opposing quarterback have 300 some odd yards.
Yeah, that would be
and
a bad
expect to roll to the Super Bowl.
Can I
That's
ask-
Not roll, but
that's not a recipe
when
to get to the
Cincinnati
Super Bowl.
got to the Super Bowl, they were 10-7.
No, but I don't think it's a record thing.
I'm talking about.
No, the
letting your
defense has to
just
improve.
allow-
So, no, I don't think they're going to let them. That's their weak link, and they got to improve it.
Let me ask you a question about that. Because I agree with you, like, any singular loss in week 6 should not be like, this team's out of it, unless you're in the hole Cincinnati is as far as. But all losses are not created equal. And I said this a couple days ago. I thought about it, and I'm like, that's definitely what I believe. A 17-14 loss because Lamar plays terribly.
Better.
Honestly, I don't think if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm like, okay. Like the guy's not going to play. You know what I mean? Like, throw that game out. 38-35, where Lamar plays great and you lose because the defense can't get a stop. That, to me, would really shake my faith about, you know what I mean? Is this not a Super Bowl? So much of the Ravens discussion when it comes to the playoffs is centered around Lamar.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, can Lamar? We take everything else as a given. But those questions, are fair or not, are going to exist until the playoffs. If all of a sudden, for the first time in his career, it's like, oh, yeah, and by the way, you also have a dreadful pass defense. Can't stop anybody. And to get to the Super Bowl, you're going to play CJ and Patrick and Josh and whomever. Like, that, to me, that's what you're saying, right?
I think that's, Nick brings up a very valid point in that regard, because if your defense is just not good, then it's just like, what can you do offensively? And I agree, you would almost feel better if you're a Ravens fan if you lose and Lamar just kind of lays an egg and you lose that game. Then it's kind of like, all right, well, those games can happen. They happen to all quarterbacks. It just is what it is. But if Lamar, that's why if they lost against the Bengals, it would have been devastating, because it was just like, you had like Lamar Jackson doing like cartoonish level of amazing things, right? Obviously the scramble play and stuff like that. And if you still lose that game, it's just like, well, what else can you get, right? If your best player, Lamar Jackson, is playing at his best and you still lose, it's like, where do you go from there? But yeah, this whole back and forth between Lamar and Jayden, to me, this is what it's actually going to come down to more than anything, is coaching and execution, specifically for Lamar and Jayden. Does Lamar want to prove to the world, bro, I hear you guys saying that Jayden is like me, or that he may be even better than me? No. Stop it right now. This is who I am, right? And this is what he was kind of I think Nick Wright was kind of almost slightly alluding to with with the OC and stuff, of being like, hey, we want to show the world who Lamar is, and let's go, which would not be the appropriate coaching aspect. And same thing with the Washington Commanders. Does Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden Daniels want to prove, Lamar Jackson's old news? Look what we got right now, right? Because that's what they wanted to do against the Cardinals. And I talked about that weeks ago before it ever happened. I was like, this is what Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden Daniels want to do. Right, Cliff Kingsbury getting fired, Kyler Murray throwing shade at Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury has to take like a one-way ticket to like Thailand or whatever, and now he wants to be able to return back to Arizona and be like, this is what a real quarterback looks like. This is the type of offense that I can run. Just look. You made a mistake firing me. You made a mistake acting like Kyler Murray was better than me, or that the problems were me and not on Kyler, because I got this new quarterback, Jayden Daniels, and look what he does. And Jayden Daniels was unleashed. Absolutely unleashed. Had a field day, and it was insane. A very exciting game. But this game is going to be different because Lamar Jackson is significantly better than Kyler Murray. And the Ravens are significantly more resilient and battle tested. Although they obviously aren't winning Super Bowls and stuff, they're still battle tested. They've still been there in tough, contentious games with the Kansas City Chiefs more than anything, of course. So that alone will make you battle tested. The Commanders are not battle tested at this point, especially in Jayden Daniels' very young career, of course, right? When you look at any of the games that they've played, the closest they have is the Bengals, and it's like that Bengals defense is absolutely awful right now. They're just giving up points to points and points and points and points. So it's not completely. Now, again, I do think it was a big moment for Jayden Daniels and the Commanders versus the Bengals, which I highlighted deeply in previous videos, but it's just not on the levels of the battle tested that Lamar has experienced, right? That Lamar's especially, but also the Ravens as a whole. So that's why, and this is why they were also kind of highlighting, like the Washington Commanders want them to get into this like weird shootout because they think that will be able to be used to the Commanders, benefit. But I guess it's really interesting because you're really kind of trying to figure out in terms of this game, what will happen first? Will the Ravens potentially outplay themselves and get away from what they think makes them the best team that they are? Or are you betting on the Commanders breaking because it is a rookie quarterback, right? With OC who's got something to prove. Like, that's what's going to be interesting. Because also a lot of people got really mad. Ravens fans get really mad at the idea that Lamar Jackson can't throw, or that Lamar Jackson can't come from behind and throw, or that somehow is a weakness. And I think what people keep failing to recognize in that conversation is that no quarterback is perfect. No quarterback has 100% on every aspect of their game. And so theoretically, yes, it's more of a weakness for Lamar throwing the ball than when he can run, and the team is better when they run the ball more and Lamar is throwing less. It's not to say that Lamar Jackson isn't a great thrower. It's just technically not what he does best. When he has to win a shootout, it's not to say that he can't. It's not to say that he's not a great thrower of the football. It's not to say that he's not a top thrower of the football. But it's technically not when he is at his best. That is what we're saying, okay? Superman. Let's take literally Superman, okay? Superman is not at his best when he has to run really fast, okay? He's stronger when he gets to, and he's a more dominant superhero when he gets to just fly around and punch people and stuff. But if you need to get in a race with him, he's really fast, but it's not his best, okay? He's not the fastest in the galaxies or whatever, okay? It's a dumb example, but I'm trying to think of the dumbest and most clear way to put it because it is something that sets Ravens fans off. And then as soon as they hear that, they don't listen to anything else that follows. And so there's no other way. I'm trying to think of other ways on how to emphasize it. It's technically the weaker link for Lamar Jackson, but it's not to say that he is a bad thrower of the ball, but you're more likely to force him to make a mistake or to fail if you're going to ask him to throw the ball 45 times a game versus if you're going to ask him to throw 20 times a game. And I got news for you. A lot of great quarterbacks are like that. That's just the way it is. So yeah, that is why the Commanders would want that. And Jayden Daniels is a great thrower of the ball and most likely will continue to progress to be a better pocket passer. He has a better sense of anticipation, timing, accuracy, and considering he's such a rookie right now, it's quite remarkable. And that's why a lot of people say this about Jayden Daniels, is that if you took away his legs, he would be still a great pocket passer. Now, if you took away the legs of Lamar Jackson, he would still be a great quarterback, but nowhere near at the level of quarterback that he is right now. And again, that still seems to be something that people, that they get really frustrated about. But I would say that, can Jayden keep pace with Lamar? He shouldn't, right? I mean, because he's just a rookie. Lamar is an experienced veteran, an absolute great in the NFL. Lamar Jackson is a future Hall of Fame quarterback. And again, is quite remarkable what Lamar Jackson has been able to do within his career. And Jayden Daniels is just not there yet. But like I've said right now, if you took away any past achievements and you just had no idea who these quarterbacks were, and you're just watching them play, you would be able to say these quarterbacks are equal, or maybe Jayden is slightly better, right? Again, in terms of what's only strictly happening this season. And you would then have to get lost into the weeds a little bit and say, well, who are they playing? Who's been playing better teams, better defenses, etc. But again, like I said before as well, even Pro Football Focus has Jayden Daniels edging Lamar Jackson out in terms of quarterback rankings. So what I'm saying is not really all that controversial, and even some of the statements that like Nick and Greg and Brew are saying in terms of Jayden right now being a better a better thrower of the football. And I'm still trying to figure out why that statement makes Baltimore Ravens fans, or just Lamar Jackson fans, so angry, because it's not to say that Lamar Jackson isn't an unbelievable talent, or that he's not great, or that he's not a top quarterback in the NFL, because Lamar Jackson right now is absolutely playing like a top quarterback in the NFL. Light years better than even Patrick Mahomes right now. So it's like, if we were just basing quarterback play off this season alone, again, nothing to do with the past, nothing to do with what we think will happen in the future, you would probably have to put Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Jayden Daniels as the top three. It's hard to find quarterbacks that are playing any better than those three quarterbacks right now. What Lamar Jackson and Jayden Daniels are doing for their team, both throwing and running, is absolutely unbelievable. And Jayden's completion percentage is literally historic. And Joe Burrow is, leading in touchdowns. I think he's got 14 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions or something around that range. And so, I mean, like, he's been unbelievable. He could literally be undefeated. His defense is just awful and trash. So it's just, right now, it's just the quarterback play has been really great with those guys specifically. But as we can see, they all have different records, and they all have different ways to win games right now, which is what makes Jayden and Lamar obviously the common comparison, because they play similar, although I've already broken down as well as why I think that they're more different than people realize. But this game will be really interesting. And I also want to emphasize another point, that, let's say, because people are so obsessed with these head-to-heads, and I personally am not. I really am not. People think that if one quarterback wins over another, it's proof that they are better, and it's just not true, because the Ravens fans were like, oh yeah, see, because these guys had a similar conversation about Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens fans and Lamar fans were really angry about it. And then after the Ravens won, they were like, oh yeah, see, how about that? And it's like, so you mean to say that if they kicked a field goal and won for the Bengals, that then the Ravens fans still wouldn't be able to celebrate the greatness of Lamar Jackson, or that would be somehow proof that Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson? It came down to a fumbled field goal kick, right? Like, it can't come down to just these singular head-to-head games. So even if Jayden Daniels balls out and throws for 330 yards and rushes for 80, and they win 28-14, the Commanders, it's not proof that Jayden Daniels is better. It'll be show you that maybe Jayden Daniels is having a better season this year, but it won't be proof. And if Lamar Jackson absolutely balls out and Jayden Daniels plays like a rookie quarterback or just plays pretty good, right? He throws for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns, but a fumble, right? And rushes for 50. Like, it doesn't mean like, haha, Jayden Daniels is awful and nowhere near on the level of Lamar. Like, it's just not how those things work. Because again, under that logic, then Gardner Minshew is better than Lamar Jackson. And I don't think anyone in their right mind believes that. So that's why, again, what I'm also learning this season so much is making these videos when it's quarterbacks that are very popular or great to each other. Mahomes, Lamar, Jayden, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, whatever it may be. A lot of these games have been with Lamar playing these other quarterbacks. It just seems like it's so contentious, and so much with whoever wins this game is proof that that quarterback is better. And it's just not the case. Lamar Jackson can play awful. Lamar Jackson could play great this game, and they could still lose. And it's not even because of Jayden Daniels being great, right? It's not. And actually, Jayden Daniels plays like a pretty average game, 180 yards for 2 touchdowns. But it was just a way, Derrick Henry fumbles the ball twice, and it's just like, oh my God, what was that? Again, none of it is proof for or against any type of claim. It's just a singular game in a long season. But if we're going to talk about, which is why I find it more interesting to talk about today, this season, right, is way more interested to me than just constantly using someone's past resume as to who they are always. Like, a lot of times I make these videos, I really try to focus on today. How are they playing? Do I think Jayden Daniels is going to finish the season with an 80% completion percentage, right? Like, probably not. Do I think that Jayden Daniels is just going to, or that the Chiefs are just going to win every single game? They've won the last 5 games. Does that mean that I think they're just going to go undefeated, right? Probably not. So it's just, I always try to think about what does these things look like today, which is why my favorite thought experiment has been lately, honestly, just being like, let's remove anything we know about any of these teams, any of these quarterbacks, anything that they've done in the past. I don't care what Patrick Mahomes did in 2019 and 2020 and 2021. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care that Lamar Jackson won the MVP last year or a few years before that. Doesn't matter. It's what is happening today. I don't care that Jayden Daniels is a rookie. How is he playing today? To me, that's been more interesting to try to evaluate these games, because again, a lot of people will give pushback and be like, well, he's just a rookie or this or that. We got to wait and see. And it's like, again, under that logic, then we shouldn't be talking about sports right now. We shouldn't be having any content. None of these shows should exist. It should just be like, yeah, that was an interesting game, but, it was just one game. We'll see what happens in January. Yeah, the Chiefs' offense isn't that great, but, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Yeah, the Ravens are looking pretty good. Lamar's looking pretty good, but we'll have to see what happens come time playoffs. Like, then it's just like, then no content should be created, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. So that, to me, that's always the laziest comeback to any of these conversations of, well, it's only week 6, or, oh, he's only a rookie, let's see what happens in the future. Yes, you could say that to every single conversation had within sports throughout a season. It's always, well, we'll have to just wait and see. We'll have to just wait and see. That's boring to me. And and if that's the way you guys view it, some of you guys, definitely not the majority, but there's definitely a vocal minority where that's their go-to comment. And it's like, well, then why do you watch any of these shows? Because all of these shows are mostly talking about today or trying to project far into the future based off of what we see today, right? Like the Vikings, we see what they're doing today. Do we think they're going to continue to be able to do that into the future? Those are all interesting conversations to have from my viewpoint. But this game, I'm already sensing is just going to be very intense for Baltimore Ravens fans more than anything. It seems like Commanders fans have a pretty decent grasp of this game, where they're like, yeah, it can kind of go either way, right? They're not saying, oh my God, Jayden Daniels has to win this game to prove that he's a great rookie quarterback. Like, they understand he's a rookie quarterback. This team is way ahead schedule, and Lamar Jackson is an absolute bona fide great in the NFL. And so they know that it's a hard matchup. Whereas it seems like the Ravens fans seem very sensitive to any criticism towards Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, where they're like, they're going to win this game. They have to win this game. And when they do win this game, it's proof that they are amazing and that Lamar Jackson is awesome and that no one can stop him. And the intensity is just so much more jacked up. And, I don't know. It's been very interesting from my viewpoint to kind of really honestly watch it all unfold. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Lamar Jackson versus Jayden Daniels? And can Jayden keep pace with Lamar? And how do you think the Ravens want to win this game in terms of making having Lamar throw it versus not, and Jayden and getting in a shootout? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.